In Chapter 6.1, we are going to review slope and graphing linear equations. And this is something you should have covered in Algebra 1 and even before that. So every line has a steepness or slope that can be measured using the fraction rise over run. So our slope is represented by the letter m, and our m is our rise over run. Now, when we look at lines on a graph, how our graph is leaning can tell us if it has positive or negative slope, or if it's undefined or if it's zero. So if we have an uphill line looking like this is our positive slope. If we have a line going down, that is negative. Then if we have a vertical line going up and down, this is undefined. And then our last slope, if we have a horizontal line, that is a slope of 0. Okay, so that's just generally telling us what our slope should look like. If we are given 2 points on a line, there's a formula we can use, and that is this slope formula right here. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And there's a few practice points here. We're going to do 2 examples. So when we do this, the easiest thing to do is label our x1, y1, x2, y2. So that way we don't actually accidentally use the wrong numbers when we're plugging them in. So our m equals our y2, which is our negative 3, minus y1, which is 8, over x2 minus x1. Solve that. Negative 3 minus 8 gives me negative 11, and negative 2 over minus negative 5 is negative 7. Negative over negative is a positive, so my answer is 11 over 7. We're going to do the same process for number 2. Label them x1, y1, x2, y2. My m equals my y2 minus my y1 over my x2 minus x1. 5 minus 5 is 0 over negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. 0 over negative 6 is just 0. So that tells me I have a horizontal line. I have a 0 slope. Remember, when you have 0 on top of the fraction, so 0 over a number, that equals 0. But if we have a number over 0, it spells NO, no, that is undefined. So if we look at our last example here, number 3, I label my x1, y1, x2, y2. I get 5 minus negative 8 over negative 3 minus negative 3. On the top, I get 13, and on the bottom, I get 0. So I have a number over 0. NO, no, that cannot happen. So our answer here is undefined. Okay, the next piece is graphing our equations, and there are 3 steps that we need to follow when we graph. The first is to solve for y, get y by itself. So if we look at our first example, let's do the first step, solve for y. I need to get y by itself here, so I want to move what's furthest away from my y first. That would be my 3x. So I'm going to add it to both sides, since right now I have a negative. When I do that, I'm left with 2y equals, and when we put it into y-intercept form, that x term always comes first here, y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to put my x term first, then my number. Then I'm going to divide by 2. Both sides. Get y equals 3/2 x plus 4. So remember that 2 has to be divided by the 3 and the 8. Now my second step is to identify the slope, which is our m, and the y-intercept, which is our b. So here my slope is the number in front of x, m is 3/2, and my b is the number at the end here, which is a positive 4. My final step, number 3, is to plot the y-intercept and then count slope from that point. So if I start with my y-intercept, it's a positive 4, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my slope tells me I'm going up 3 and over 2. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, and I got to go one more off the graph, up 3, and then over 1, 2. So this is my point. Then I can connect my points and create my line. Okay, we've got one more example down here. My first step, solve for y, is already done for me. So all I have to do for this one is identify my slope, which is a -1/3, and my b, which is a positive 3. Then I can graph. I'm going to graph positive 3. And then my slope this time, I'm going down 1, a -1, and over 1, 2, 3.